And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename too.
We are going to be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
Still holding up.
Today is our 96th episode.
Okay, now nothing special is happening today, right? Like I don't have to add a lock to the door.
Nope. Nobody is going to pop in midstream with balloons or cinnamon buns with banana flavored frosting.
Banana flavored frosting. Why? I don't even know why that's a thing.
And hopefully nobody jumps in with surprise software licensing changes.
What? No, that's even worse than banana flavored frosting.
Hey, some people like banana flavored frosting.
Sure, maybe. But nobody likes surprise licensing changes.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're here to answer development and design questions about Idle Champions.
But if you don't ask any questions, you might have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of finding out about the Unity feed changes. Oh, no.
No, I'm not saying that on stream.
Yeah, you're probably right. We don't want to get the channel banned.
It's for the best that I've already seen some questions go by.
Good. Because as always, we have pulled forward some questions from the previous show that we're going to get to while we wait for additional questions to come in. And before we get to those, we do have some updates on items that were flagged to get looked at by the dev team. So without any further stalling for time, we'll get looking at those. And I think, in actuality, I have items this week, which is better than the previous weeks when I did not have items, only items that I was promising that we would look at. And that is because I know Mark is hard at work getting some of these taken off the list. And he does have 3 that have been completed so far. They're not out in a build yet, but they are done, and I've seen them, and they look great. And that includes the option for the default character appearance to be included in the random skin selection. That is done. Adding the ability to hide the bottom UI. There's now a button for doing that. As well as a display for showing the area-based enemy health. What's a very weird description of that? But there was a request to be able to see what enemy health was without when the monsters are rapidly moving, so that you could actually see it. And we have put an additional field in under on the bud hover. So when you hover over the bud display, it shows you that number. Again, these aren't out yet, but they are on the current working branch and will be out sometime shortly. We do still have a large in-progress list, which hopefully more of these will move over to the completed list, but that includes making it so that season champions do not appear in the free time gate choice. With you now being able to open 1,000 chests, taking a pass on how many you can buy at a time. Adding hotkeys for new systems, such as the and old systems, so including seasons and multi-party. I know Mark's got actually a big chunk of those also crossed off. He's just finishing up a few of them. Confirming that all areas have distractions properly assigned to them. Preventing a kicked player from just rejoining a trials lobby. Ordering the favor display to just not be an ID order. Which actually, looking at that, while it was reported that that was the case, it appears that it's not quite the case. That actually were sorted by permanent favors and then then event favors. But I think that is going to require us to take a look at and sort of maybe change that display a little bit. And then we're going to add an option to the store for sort by price, an option to sort on the blacksmith contract stream by slot. Increase the number of blacksmith contracts you can open at a time, place the current day on the season dialogue, have the distraction timers persist from one area to the next, add amount arrows to the selection for buying chests and anywhere else that makes sense, track achievements on the quest tracker, and add a second exclamation point that is colorblind friendly on the adventure party display to show that the party is also at goal, in addition to just showing that the party is stalled. Whew, big list. And with that, let's get into the questions left over from the prior shows.
Fantastic. Let's do it. The first question here from last week was from Alpha Kroll, who asked or said, familiars on ultimate bars still don't work in background parties. Are you looking into that? Ultimate tasks are a bit bothersome. Seems they work if you go into the party and set it up, but they don't get Modron automation on a reset.
Familiars on Ultimate Bar should be working in the background. I was not aware that they were not working in the background. Do you know anything about that, Justin? Because that I
I do not. I assume there are some things that maybe just the way that the challenge is set up, it doesn't trigger off of just the ultimate triggering, but triggers off of something else. And
Oh, I
maybe
see.
it needs to be shimmed to kind of have an average value put in. But I feel like that would be a kind of a case by case basis on some specific challenges.
Right, I see. Because there's two things here, and that is familiars not working on ultimate bars in background, which I believe they do, and then ultimate tasks not getting credited, which could very well be the case. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we can tag that. Next question here is from Rough Rider 1995, asking, can we get more variety in the champions required for the DPS and Party of 3 Patron Chores?
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting question. So the ones that are in there are specifically set up. The last time we went through and did some the patron chore updates, we looked at sort of what kind of formations we wanted people to try to build in their patrons. And obviously, as time goes on, those will get more and more out of date. And so I do think that's something that we should go through and take a look at again on a semi-regular basis every year or two. But for now, I think it's something that we're not going to really be able to update on the fly very often, just because of the amount of work involved in that. So yeah, it's something we're going to look at down the road, but not immediately.
Okay. And it looks like those are the only two questions were pulled up from last week. So we'll just get right into the new ones. First question of the day comes from Library of Akasha, asking, now that the time gate bug is fixed and retired champions are even more inaccessible, do you have any plans on retiring them in any way, shape, or unretiring them in any way, shape, or form? I'd like to farm their shiny equipment, and time gates don't work for that. On average, 30 silver chests per time gate, while on average, 1,000 per shiny.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a fair question. There's definitely so the reason we fixed the time gate bug is because it was too easy to farm this stuff for retired event champions, especially if you had a massive supply of bounty contracts and thus a massive supply of event currency. Especially for folks who were scripting or who were very late game and had some very efficient farms going. So I think we wanted to make sure that wasn't a thing anymore, and I think we probably went back too far in the other direction, and we probably need to look at just making some of that gear a little bit easier to get. But with that said, it's it's one of those things that we have to balance. And one of those problems that we only really have because we're so far into the game. We've got 6 years worth of champions in there, and folks who want to gear up 6 years worth of champions to the maximum possible gear, like that's going to take a long time unless we make it much easier. So I think there's a balance in there. I think it was too far in one direction before the bug was fixed, and it swung back too far in the other direction. So we'll have to find a balance point for that down the road.
Okay. Next question. This one also from Library of Akasha. Can you please do something about directed cross pipes? It's all RNG and it drives me nuts. I'll never get the right pipes and complete the pipe dream achievement. Even if I buy Modron chests, it wouldn't be guaranteed that I would get the directed cross pipes that I need.
Yeah, this is fair. We've seen this question quite a bit before. Folks are looking for ways to get a specific directed cross pipe in the Modron game, and I kind of bounce around on what I think about this. One part of me, the part of me that really wants the game to have like an end game, is okay with the fact that there's some RNG here, and it does take a very long time to get exactly the pieces you need. The other side of me just wants players to actually be able to complete it and get like the extremely optimal type of Modron setup for all their Modrons. So this is probably another case where we're currently a little bit off balance. But I don't think it'd take too many tweaks to get that in the right direction. I do think, some of the suggestions I've seen is just letting people, buy exactly the one they want or trade until they get the one they want. And I think that might be a little bit too far in the other direction of making it too easy. But I think there's some solution we can come to make this reasonable within a reasonable amount of time.
All right. Next question. This is from Randrem. If future upcoming skins were removed so Jim wouldn't assign them and create spoiler leakages, why are another 5 added back this week? Could we have it at least one way or the other, all or none?
Yeah. I'm not sure why another 5 were added back. It's probably just the way they were added into the system doesn't automatically put on the tag that is supposed to hide them. So I'm going to pass this along to development, and we can make sure that the tools are updated to blank those out.
Okay.
I can give you the next one
Sure,
here.
why
This
not?
one's from Super Fluffy Kitty, who asks, will there be a claim all button for the season pass? I reached level 25-ish in the first day and own the upgrade, but I don't want to click 100 plus times to claim all the items.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't make sense to add, actually. I mean, even if it's on sort of it could be on a per grouping basis, but or claim all available, because at that point you've unlocked
page.
them. Yeah, per page.
Yeah.
Per page would have been my first thought on something like that. But yeah, I think we could do something like that. Just tag it. All right.
Yep.
Next question. This is from SailNet. Why do Milestone Quests get released that don't work in background or offline mode? This put console players at a significant disadvantage.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fair question. I think we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about ultimates in background parties. Like background and offline basically run the same way. So it's I think it's just a case of we do endeavor to make sure that all quests, not just milestone quests, but all quests will work in some way in background parties. But I think occasionally we miss those. So this is a good situation where opening a ticket and saying the specific one that is not working can help us to identify those and hopefully have them either hotfix them during the season to work, or the next time they come up in the next season we can get those to work. Yeah, because there's, I mean, I guess to expand on that a little bit, because we kind of touched on it in the ultimate discussion, but some things just don't get simulated entirely in background progress or an offline mode, and so in those cases what we'll do is we'll put in a shim. I guess, is that a woodworking term?
I mean, a construction term.
Just a construction
in general.
term.
Yeah.
We'll just put in a little bit of code that basically causes it to give you some, like, estimate the amount of credit you should be getting and give you that credit automatically. And once we get those in for a milestone quest, it'll start to work in background or offline mode. So it's just a matter of identifying what quests need shims and then putting those in.
Yeah, for sure. Once we've identified, yeah, for sure, identify them.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. I think we've kind of touched on this before, but this is a question from the Lurking Writer. Season daily quests can be rerolled once per day. Do you have any thoughts on extending this system to wild offers?
Yeah, so we have talked about that in the past. We've kind of the last time we looked at the wild offer system, we came up with a bunch of different ideas of things we could do to kind of expand on it. And one of the things we thought about was being able to re-roll a wild offer if you get one you don't like, just being able to hit show me a different one. Some other ideas I think we came up with at that time. We were thinking about maybe offering like 2 or 3 at once. So you could have a variety and trying to make them have as much variety as possible. So it wasn't like 3 skins for a champion you don't want all at the same time. So yeah, we have thought about this stuff in the past. I think there's probably some good ideas in there that we could implement, but it's just a matter of development resources, I think.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like, it does, I guess for a wild offer, you'd want to offer it reroll, and then I suppose you'd have to say keep the reroll or revert in case, yeah. But
yeah,
it certainly hasn't been
there's some
something
other
that's been
questions there.
top of the priority list right now. But it's an idea that I could see us doing in the future for sure. All right. Next question here is from Meow Arf Moo, asking, is something being done to make the formation management better? Currently, I find it very difficult to add/change the formations during a run. Not being able to make changes while mobs are close by the formation forces us to go back a level and then hurriedly drag and drop. If you have speed potions going, it's near impossible to make some changes. And then they ask, additionally, can we get those little formation circles to always be on and visible? I'd like to always see my options.
Yeah, so a couple of things on this question. I'll actually address the second one first.
Oh,
so
easy.
having the
Yep.
little formation circles on, I think we talked about that in a recent episode, like in the last dozen episodes or so.
Yes.
And we debated back and forth about whether that option already exists, but I guess the idea was it doesn't.
It does exist, but it doesn't show the circles that aren't full.
Yes.
So it either shows the circle under the character or not, but not the ones that are empty. I believe that was what yeah.
So I think we should put in an option to always show the circles regardless of whether there's a champion in them or not.
Always show all circles, empty or
always
otherwise.
show all circles. Yes, I think that's a good idea. And then for the first part of this question, sort of better formation management, I think this goes all the way back to probably like the first episode of Dev Insights. We got a very similar question to this, which is, can you just add a pause button that basically pauses the game so I can play around with my formation and then hit go?
Yep.
And the discussion we had back then was basically around sort of well, it's something we've talked about quite a bit, which is giving players the options to accidentally mess up and cost themselves progress, and having like a pause button or a way to sort of essentially pause the game and mess around with your formation leaves open the possibility that you would pause the game, be messing around with your formation, then get up and have to go somewhere, and then come back 12 hours later with absolutely no progress.
Yes.
Which is definitely a downside to this kind of thing. With that said, I think there are ways to get around that, some sort of auto unpause after a few minutes or something like that. And then on the actual formation management and formation builder kind of stuff itself, we have talked about that in the past. I think we even got so far as maybe starting to spec out.
We did a design for it.
A full formation manager. But at this point it hasn't. I don't even remember where where it got to. This was years and years ago when we were looking at that. I think it was the formation manager. What was the other feature that actually got done? We had to kind of pick between the two. I feel like it was
offline progress.
It might have been.
I think it was
progress.
at the same time as that. Yeah,
offline progress and the formation. So we chose offline progress. I think we made the right choice at that time, but I do think that coming back around to this and doing a formation manager in the future, something where you can play with different formations, maybe even share formations with like a code, something like that. That's something we had in there. Being able to try it out with champions you don't even have, just to see what kind of DPS
I think it was both champions you didn't have as well as equipment you didn't have was in the spec for that.
Yeah, you could set equipment levels to whatever you want. Really, just being able to, play around with a formation and then share it with your friends and load in ones that your friends see, and then seeing what you need to get to that formation. So if someone shares a cool formation, seeing who you need to recruit and what item levels you need and all that stuff to get to that DPS would have been pretty cool, and will be very cool if and when we do it in the future.
Yeah, it's funny, sort of looking at this question as we're talking about it, I was thinking, I know one of the things that we have is that when your formation is under attack, you can't swap out the champions. Now I'm trying to remember, was that on a per slot level or just the whole formation is not modifiable when
I think the intention initially was it would be per slot, but I'm not sure what the state of that is right now. It might be the whole formation is locked. I think it could also
multiple
conflicting
answers in the chat.
So I think it's any champion that's being attacked, you can or that is being attacked cannot be swapped out, and obviously the reason for that should be obvious. We don't want you to be able to basically play swap the tanks, where one of your tanks gets low in health and you just swap in another one. So that is the reason for that. You should be able to change champions in the back rows, which works in all cases except for when you're under like an AoE attack.
Interesting. Gar is saying that you can swap attack champions if they're in the same bench slot.
Ha!
That sounds like an oversight.
That sounds like a bug.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess sort of what my thinking was. I know we sort of had this, like, you didn't want to be able to change mid, attack, but it almost, like, thinking about it from a standpoint of, oh well, you can just back up one area and make the change, then go forward. It's not like, that's sort of it's not game breaking in the sense that maybe it is something that would be reasonably to be a little more flexible about. Obviously not just playing swap the tank. I don't think that's not certainly the ideal. But it does make me think that maybe something like a temporary pause, you push a button and you get 30 seconds to reorganize the ones that aren't under attack, might be something that I don't think that would hurt anything, and so it might be something that could be an option.
Yep.
Thoughts? Or are you just reading the chat?
Yeah, I'm just reading the chat and being cheeky.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's something we'll have to talk about.
Okay. All right, next question. This one is from Emote. Question. I heard Mars forwarded the boss chest drop data we'd collected. Were you able to compare it to the actual values? Any interesting conclusions? Oh, and there's a comment from Mars. Oh.
Yeah. So I think Mars forgot to forward that on, but that's fine, because seeing this question did remind me to go look at the actual code that doesn't, and I think I know why you're seeing a discrepancy between basically what I said and the 3% chance that I said and the numbers you're seeing. And it appears to be that the game has a pity timer on chests, where if you go more than 20 chests or 20 bosses without getting a chest drop, we will double the odds for each boss past that point. So what that means is you have a 3% chance. So once you get a chest from a boss, the next 20 bosses will each have a 3% chance. And then the 21st boss will have a 6% chance. The 22nd boss will have a 12% chance. The 23rd boss will have a 24% chance, etc., doubling with each boss until you get a chest. So that is likely what is happening, since 3% chance over 20 bosses is going to be, it's not going to be uncommon that you don't hit that. Yeah, after that point, the odds will go up, and that is likely why you're seeing that kind of 5-point random number % chance for a boss drop, or for a chest drop from bosses.
Okay. Yes.
Well, the next question here is from OG17. Pull up our official statements and whatnot for this. From OG17. They're asking, thoughts on Unity? No idea how you're affected, but per install seems absurd for free-to-play models where many people try a game and very few pay. Is an engine change realistic? And before you start, why don't you just sort of briefly touch on what OG17 is asking about there, since some people who aren't developers might not be aware of what's going on.
Sure. So, I think a lot of people probably are aware. I saw a handful of other questions of this, but I guess, was it Tuesday, 2 days ago?
Yep.
Now Unity announced that they would be adding a runtime fee for any game that was made in Unity starting in January of 2024.
Can you speak briefly on what Unity is?
Sure. Unity. So if you're not familiar, Unity is a pretty widely used game engine. Like Unreal, for example, is another pretty commonly used game engine. Unity is particularly popular among small studios and indie developers because it has always had sort of a low barrier to entry, low cost to use, and quite a good tool for. It's pretty much it's like the second engine compared. What am I trying to say? Like, the two sort of major engines that are used for indie projects or other projects in particular, and that's Unreal and Unity. And Unreal has actually more recently become more accessible to indie developers. I think Unity actually probably was kind of a catalyst for that, because they came along and started offering sort of these better end tools for lower entry access. And so at that point, Unreal actually said, "All right, well, we'll make our tools available for limit or for lower cost entry for indie developers as well." Sort of what I'm trying to articulate is that Unity is the engine that we use for Idle Champions. And if these changes do go through, it would mean that there would be additional costs to us when anyone installs the game, as well as an enormous number of other games that have been made in Unity. So clearly it's creating quite a large controversy right now. And as far as sort of our thoughts on it, I mean, I think we're carefully watching it. I think it's concerning. I'm not sure sort of how it's all going to shake out, but it's something that we are watching very carefully.
Yep.
And I guess the second part of that question, is an engine change realistic? I think that's really tied to kind of how much of an impact, cost-wise, these models would or the change in pricing model would create. I think that's a really big undertaking for both for us and for pretty much anyone who's got a fully released game. So I think it would have to be a pretty sizable difference to make an engine change realistic. So that's a really tough one. Any other thoughts on that, Justin?
Yeah, no, I think you've covered it pretty well. It's disappointing to see, obviously, and we're just going to keep on monitoring and see what happens with that, and do what things we can do to try and mitigate the impact of that on Idle Champions and our players.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. This is from OG17 as well. Crit feats were recently set to 5% for uncommon and 10% for rare. Why are these so low? Most characters with crit feats were better off with standard feats. Crit feats are only potentially useful for characters focused on crit synergy ability, and even then, those are low values.
Yeah, so I can speak to what happened with those crit feats, and that is basically that the initial design for crit feats was 5% uncommon, 10% rare, and 20% epic. And we noticed last week or a couple of weeks ago that some champions had just the wrong percentages on them. So the fast thing to do to fix that was just to fix those percentages back to what the design was supposed to be. Now, as for why those numbers across the board, I think it was one of those things where we started out very careful about this stuff. And I do think that it'd be worthwhile to evaluate whether or not those feats are good or not at those values, and potentially go through and increase them. And if we were going to increase them, we would increase them across the board, because crit feats are one of those types of feats where they're standardized feats. Unlike some special ability feats, these ones are basically have the same names, the same values, the same rarities across the board, and so we want to make sure that they're the same on every champion, and that's what we were fixing with this bug fix. And increasing the values would be something separate, but is something that could happen in the future.
All right. Next question. This is from Meow Arf Moo again. Can we get a way to sort or filter time gates by slot?
Sure.
Perfect. Next question. This is from LinksGen, I think, or if that's an I or an L, we'll never know. Why does the Modron Core level up notification pop up 100 to 150 levels before it actually levels up?
I don't know. Why?
I didn't know this was a thing that was happening.
This is the first I've heard of that.
Can confirm that
Star
it
Wars
does in the
says
chat.
it's a Briv issue.
Huh.
Sounds like something we need to look into.
Pop up 100.
Doesn't give.
I
credit
wonder
for
if it's
skip
not
levels visually
saved
until
yet.
you- No, I think it sounds like it's the other way around. It sounds like it's saved on the back end, but not updated in the front end. That seems like that should be an easy fix.
Are you sure it's not the other way around?
Well, the Modron Core
'Cause
level
Briv
ups
isn't
are controlled by
saving.
the back end, not by the front end.
Right. That's why I'm saying that. I wonder if the. All right. Well, we'll have to think about it.
If it was the other way around, I think you would. It would fill up past, and then you would get the level up. It'd be the other way around if it wasn't saving. Because you would go past the 100% mark, and then it would, if it needs to save, it would save and then give you the level up. So I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, I mean the only way I could see it working the other way around would be if Briv is ahead, and it doesn't actually and the data that's showing there, it comes gets loaded when you load the dialogue, and so potentially until Briv is saved, the backend hasn't registered that it's leveled up.
From what people are saying in chat, it sounds to me like when Briv skips a level,
Yep.
The front end does not count that XP.
Right, but the backend wouldn't have counted that XP yet either because it hasn't saved, because Briv skips only save
True, but I'm
Yeah.
saying the front end would never count that XP until it gets your current XP value from the back end.
But then
Right.
why would it be ahead?
The back end would be ahead of because that's okay. We'll
All
talk
right.
about this
We'll talk
after.
about it.
I'll build some diagrams and stuff.
Perfect. All right. Next question. This is from Noble612. Noble612. Why has Arcan a gold find item and no health item, despite being a tank with the gold find roll?
Without the gold find roll, actually.
Correct.
So the answer here is quite simple. Way back in time, 7 years ago, when little young Justin was designing champions and assigning roles and items and stuff, he wasn't as good at it as he is now, and did dumb things like this. So Archon is just he's a legacy champion. He's one of our older champions. He's one of our oldest champions, and if we were to come around, if Archon was to somehow make an appearance in a season, I'm sure this would be something that would be addressed. With that said, we've talked about evergreen champions in seasons before, so it is unlikely to be something that gets addressed by that, unless we do a season that's adjacent to Archon and maybe the rest of the Dark Order, in which case we might sometimes we sprinkle in some changes to season adjacent champions from time to time. So that's the way I could see this getting addressed. But aside from that, no.
So would you describe him as an elder champion?
An elder champion?
As opposed to an older champion? A legacy champion? I think elder sounds better. He's an elder
champion? Yeah. Archon's quite elderly. I hope Joe's not watching this show. Anyway.
Okay. I think it's giveaway time, Justin.
It is indeed giveaway time. Coming to you live from my basement, it's our world famous 42 chest giveaway. The way this works, if you haven't been here before, very, very shortly, CNE Games in the Twitch chat will give you a keyword. All you have to do is copy and paste that keyword back into chat, and you'll be entered for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. If you win, you get to pick the type of chest. It can be any type of chest in the game. Any type. It could be a silver chest. It could be a gold chest. It could be Archon gold chests.
Can it be a sodium chest? Potassium chest? Magnesium chest?
It does have to be
Can
a
it be
type
lithium?
of chest. So it has to be a type of chest that exists in the game, and it should probably, for your own safety, be a type of chest that won't explode if exposed to water. So I wouldn't go with the lithium.
Cesium chest.
No.
Is that even worse?
Stop trying to blow people up.
Oh, what? That is not what we're trying to do. Let's be clear about that.
Yes. So good luck to everyone who has entered. And let's move on to the next question.
A lithium chest reacting with water is not an unexpected surprise, though.
Well, it depends if you've taken high school physics.
Chemistry?
Or middle school.
Chemistry? Let's go with chemistry.
Chemistry? Sure. I never took chemistry, but I know that. So it must be a middle school science thing then.
Yeah, they do all that. Plus they mix like sulfuric acid and sugar and you get to have one of those giant... Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lurking Writer says, aluminum chests are in David's game. So does that count? No, it has to be a type of chest that's in everyone's game. Doesn't count if it's one of Dave's hacked chests.
You too can open up the graphic after it's loaded in game and change it in Photoshop.
Well,
it's a true story.
Anywho.
All right. Moving on to the next question. This one is from Meow Arf Moo again, which is cat, dog, cow. It's a curious combination. It's like a man, bear, pig. But anyway, is there an option to show all characters and info while on an adventure without having to remove or swap the characters from the formation?
Yes. Good question. The simple answer to this is no. But this is something that we do want to do down the line. We are now very deep into design on the new collections dialogue, which could very well have this info on it. I don't think it does at the moment. If I recall the UI review we did earlier this week, I guess it was. But I think this is something that I would like to get in there so that you can definitely view all that information without having to mess around with your current formation. Just because of the way that the game just holds on to champion data when you're in an actual adventure, I think it would actually be a little bit challenging to try and get the profile dialogue to display information for a champion that is not currently in your party. I'm not sure about that, but it feels like the collections dialogue is a good place for this kind of stuff. So that is where we will try to put it.
Okay. Next question here is from the 22 Dragons. And all of them would like to know. I think allowing players to replay variants would be fun. And also to be fair to those who have completed them and cannot use them to farm quest objectives. Even leaving with just favor as a reward, similar to free play, would be fine. Is there any reason why this is not possible?
Yeah, so there's no technical reason why it's not possible. There are some design reasons why I'm hesitant to do it across the board. And those are that variants are a place where sometimes design goes a little bit crazy. And sometimes we create situations that just don't exist anywhere else in the game and could potentially be prone to exploitation if they existed on a regular basis. And so I think it's a matter of we want to try and keep those situations out of essentially free play, so that there isn't like some weird edge case where someone's like, hey, go to this variant that auto skips you past 50 levels and farm your stuff there because it's 800 times faster than just doing a free play. And that's really the main reason why we don't want to allow this kind of thing across the board. And I think the reason we don't allow it on a kind of case by case basis is just because of the administration of kind of trying to tell whether or not a given variant has something that is exploitable in it, and then we have to turn it off. And so we'd rather just kind of keep it flat across the board with just free play being repeatable.
Okay. Next question. This is from Dozy9. Have you thought about creating new yearly events that would consist of new characters, like patrons, evergreens, kids, etc.? Currently, one feels dated and have weird stuff, like beating Zariel despite her being good and a patron.
Well, spoilers. So yeah, I think this is just a question. They're basically asking, can we refresh some of the 17 events with new stuff? And I won't say it's not something we've ever thought about. We have, or I won't say it's not something we have not
Thought about?
We have. Let me just start again. We have thought about doing this in the past. About refreshing certain events and at least sort of the event adventure or stuff like that. But I think it just comes down to priorities of where we're spending our art resources and our design resources and our development resources. And the 17 events that we have for a given year, yeah, they get repetitive, 6 years in. Absolutely. Yeah, they have some weird stuff that has gotten kind of dated, like having Zerial in there as an enemy, even though, once you finish the Descent into Avernus campaign, she's good, I guess. So I think it's just a matter of the time is better spent just coming up with new adventures, coming up with new, more interesting champions. If we were to do something like this, something would have to give, and I think the content that we're putting out is kind of what we think gives everyone their best bang for their buck and their best enjoyment for their time.
Okay. Here's an interesting question.
People don't like the Devourer, apparently. Noted. Going to create a Devourer variant.
Oof.
Every boss is a Devourer.
And you can replay that variant.
Yes,
that
we'll allow that
yeah,
one to be replayed.
Yeah, perfect.
Infinitely. In fact, we'll force it to be replayed.
That's right. Once you open it, that's it. You're stuck there on that party. Next question. This is from Ranram, and they ask, with the confirmation of perpetual back-to-back seasons, can we have the 4-season real-world favors removed, as that shift horribly quite quickly with 5.2 seasons per year?
Yes.
What, you don't want summer in the middle of like January? Come on.
This is definitely something that we have.
Have you heard of Australia?
Yeah. Yeah. We're just flipping the magnetic field of Faerun every year and a half or something like that. Anyway, yes, this is something we've thought about. I think rather than removing the favors that we have, because that's a bit of a pain, I think we're going to have kind of bridge favors. So whenever we need to get things back close to the proper the northern hemisphere. Australia is going to be after me after this. Anyway, after we get back, when they get out of sync, we'll have a bridge favor to put them back in sync, at which will not be, I think, season flip. Anyway, yes, we've thought about it. We'll handle it.
That's your current solution?
I'm going to go now.
Is that the best you've got?
Yes, because it was the easiest thing to do.
Okay. Oof. Yep. Alienating a whole continent, Justin. You're on a roll today.
Anyway,
you can ask the next question.
Let's go to the next question.
Yeah.
This is from Sir Lance String, who asks, "Can we make suggestions?" Yes, you can.
No. Oh, okay.
Yes, you can.
Oh.
If so, then I would suggest when levels are completed, it would be nice if the black screen change affected only the play field and did not display over the console or controls. I think we talked about this before, haven't we? What's this?
Sorry, are they saying the stream died? No. Only one person. Okay. Right. So yeah, we did try this.
Black screen. Yes.
Yeah, the black screen in between area changes. So we did try this once before, and I'm trying to remember. I if I recall, it looked bad. That was the reason we opted to do it over the whole thing.
I think it did look weird. It was my recollection, but I mean, we haven't
tried it in a while, but yeah,
6 years.
Because I do remember it was a suggestion, and I do remember that it wasn't something that, like, we tried it and we didn't like it.
Yeah.
Now you can click through, so if you were like in the middle of something, like the thing coming up doesn't like block what you were doing, and hopefully that doesn't hold you up for too long. But I mean, the main reason that black screen is up is to mask that, new area backgrounds and whatnot are being downloaded during that period. Actually, the way the system works is that it downloads the one you're going to need next it downloads the one you're going to need next at the previous area, but it's always possible that hasn't loaded yet, and that black screen covers up that there's loading happening there. And so if it stops in the middle and doesn't move on, it's because stuff is still loading. But that shouldn't be the primary case. Primarily, it should be able to just quick flash across, and it doesn't block most clicks. So you should keep, if you're in the middle of clicking on something, you should continue to be able to do that. But it shouldn't be too functionally limiting. So that's why we've left it like that. Okay.
Next question is from Bozinius, who asks, when will you add the ability to open more bounty contracts than 50 or combine them into bigger increments?
Very shortly. The increased count on blacksmith contracts is in my list of items at the top, and I know Mark has got that on his list next to look at, and we spoke about it just maybe an hour before the show, and we're going to bump that up at least to start with 250, and then we'll go from there and see what that looks like. But so very soon. All right. Next question. This is from Max I. Kubert, asking any idea of the ETA for the Alchemist Thingy. What's the Alchemist Thingy, Justin?
So yeah, the Alchemist Thingy, this is something we get questions about a lot. And the Alchemist Thingy is a system that I designed several months ago at this point to be able to trade potions from one variety to another. And up and down in rarity, so that you could take those potions that you don't really care about and convert them into potions that you do care about. I don't think we don't really have an ETA on this. It's something that has been designed and is currently sitting in a large pile of things that have been designed and awaiting dev resources. So I don't think we have an ETA for you right now, but it is something that's been designed, and I think we'd like to get it into the game at some point.
All right. Next question. This is from Capra85. Are you thinking about future endgame content other than just hard variants? Something, for example, like a DPS leaderboard per champion, with maybe rewards when you reach a particular DPS threshold on your own account, would be a fun suggestion.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that we're kind of working on that are similar to this. So yeah, we are doing hard variants. Our plan for the next patron is that it be a very challenging patron. In terms of sort of leaderboards in general, any leaderboard that is shared sort of between players is something that we've always been very, very wary of. A couple of reasons for that. The main one being the game isn't 100% secure against cheaters. So I think that there would definitely be a lot of pollution on any sort of leaderboards, and it's not fun to sort of work really hard to go onto a leaderboard and then see like 100 people who just edited some memory on it above you. And we also don't want to have to spend the time and energy to try to moderate something like that, because that's just a huge task for a game with a lot of players. We do have some sort of thoughts of how some sort of I think the idea of getting like social recognition for your accomplishments is a good thing. And so we do have some ideas of how to do that without necessarily having a ranked leaderboard. Maybe just the idea of, if you finish all of the adventures and variants in, say, the Waterdeep campaign, that you get your name on a wall of completionists. And then, yeah, sure, maybe you're on there with some cheaters, but they're not above you or below you, or there's no sort of ranking on it. So it's really just, I've done this, and here I am, and there's my name on the wall. So we've thought about doing something like that. And then in terms of sort of doing stuff like completion for yourself, the collections dialogue is going to have a lot of progress bars and stats and stuff like that on it. That you can. A lot of
progress bars.
Well, so you're going to be able to tell, are you 100% done this thing? Are you 100% done this feature? What's the highest DPS you've gotten in this set of adventures or that set of adventures? So there's a bunch of stuff like that that's going to be included in the collection dialogue, and I think that's stuff that we will expand on in the future as well, just so you have sort of your own personal leaderboard that if you want to, you can, take a screenshot, share it in Discord, be like, hey, has anyone got stuff better than this? And then other people can, share theirs. And so that kind of, opt-in sharing, I think, is something else that we'd like to do. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're thinking in this kind of regard.
All right. Next question. This is from Randram. Any updates since last week on ideas for Patron 5? Specifically concept rather than time frame. We already know it's early 2022.
Yeah, we have been thinking about Patron 5. Design's taken a decent amount of time in the last month or two to think about what that would look like. Or I guess not even the last month or two, the last month or so. We are leaning towards getting this patron done soonerish rather than later. Everyone knows it's already scheduled for release in early 2022, so no surprises there if it comes out anytime soon. So in terms of the details of it, I think we are looking at trying to give it a big jump in difficulty. The most recent patron, Zerial, is the sort of the base level for the difficulty of their variants is quite low given the meta these days, and so we would look at bumping that up quite significantly. So that kind of the lowest variant levels might be like in the 7, 8, maybe 900 range, and then the actual bump up from the base variant level would be much higher as well, so that there would be some extremely challenging variants out there for this. And then we also want to look at in terms of the champion requirements for that, we are still thinking about the idea of having a patron that doesn't necessarily have a fixed set of champions associated with it. So something that changes over time, either based on sort of when the champion was released or some sort of popularity metric or something like that. So that it's a patron that has a little bit more variability to it, and the stuff that works to beat variants on it 1 year might not work the next year, kind of thing.
That's going to make the chest opening a little interesting.
Yeah. I think the thing that makes the most interesting, the thing we haven't actually solved yet, is every patron has a shop, as players will know, and in that shop are feats, skins, GEs, even for specific champions. And so if we make the variability of the champions that are eligible for the patron too high, we kind of make it challenging to fill out the shop in the same way that we filled out the shop for previous patrons. So there's some thoughts that have to happen there, but I think we've got some pretty good ideas of ways to make a cool patron that you won't be able to use Artemis on.
Okay. Next question. This question is from Robin1XP. And they ask, will we see extra split the party added to the game for one more party slot anytime in the future, even distant future?
So yes, I think we would like to do another split the party down the road. I don't think we've got a timeline for it. I think there were a lot of sort of optimizations we were trying to do to background parties. And background progress and that sort of stuff before we even thought about doing a fifth party. But I think now that some of that stuff is done, I think we could start to think about what is kind of left on the list before we would do an additional party. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of thoughts that go into when we add another party, because yeah, it does add another place to use 5 more champions and potentially some familiars, and to farm up in have sort of an auto farm party going in a patron, or be able to do a bunch of variants at once or stuff like that. But it also adds to the complexity of just loading up the game and having to kind of maintain your parties. So it adds a little bit of extra kind of mental energy that you have to use in order to play. And so there's pros and cons to it, and we'll have to figure out when the right time to do that is.
Okay.
It's like we're running very low on time
we are
here.
very low on time. Do we want to do one more? Or...
the next one's a little bit of a longer answer. The next one's a little bit of a longer answer. I think we pull these ones forward for next week's show as a teaser.
As a teaser?
Hey, if you're Loopy 79 or Gauntlet Blade or Meow Arf Moo,
your questions are coming up for next week.
Got
All
three
right,
questions
perfect.
highlighted here that we will answer next week.
Okay.
So that's all we have time for this week. If we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry. You'll have another opportunity. As mentioned, we will be live again next week. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was Mars and Gabe. I think it's normally Mars and Gabe, but it was Mars and Gabe this week. They're the two folks who copy your questions into our questions document and make things awesome in chat. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game. Because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye. All right. What do you got for me?
Damn it, Justin. So what if I can't spell Armageddon? It's not the end of the world.
I get it.
Oh shit, it is the end of the world.
Yeah, that's the joke. It's because Armageddon means the end of the world, and so okay.
You don't need to explain it. You're killing it.
It's funnier if you explain it.
Said I'm ending the stream.